Hey guys, happy Thursday. Welcome back. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you the latest updates. We'll be talking about macro updates with Bitcoin. Most recently, we got news around Israel attacking Iran, and this is causing some market uncertainty where Bitcoin price has recently just dropped in the near term, dropped by about 3 to 4%, now hovering at around over 103,000. Most of you are wondering, is this pullback going to be temporary? Will Bitcoin recover from this? Is now a time to buy the dips, sell, or hold Bitcoin? We'll also be covering as well the latest updates around strategy MSTR, the titan of all Bitcoin companies. This company has been stacking Bitcoin since 2020, now having over 580,000 Bitcoins on their treasury with billions of dollars that they've gained just holding on to Bitcoin. And with changes to the accounting rule and all that, this is really going to benefit the company where it's just going to transform to become a trillion-dollar company at one point. But most of you are wondering, is now a good time to buy, sell, or hold? We'll cover all of those where I will be doing technical analysis, price predictions, and I would encourage staying until the end where I will be playing epic video clips of Sailor. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. First off, let's take a look at a post from Watcher Gurus. Just in $335 million was just liquidated from the crypto market in the past 60 minutes after Israel launches strikes on Iran. This didn't happen too long ago. This really caused stocks, crypto market just having full on liquidation right now. And are we going to see things recover, come tomorrow's market opening? We'll see. Fiat Archive posts Ukraine officially introduces bill to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Obviously, we know Ukraine has a huge hodl of Bitcoin, less than 200,000 Bitcoins, similar to like other countries right now, like South Korea, rushing to also adopt strategic Bitcoin reserve, following through with how the United States has implemented SBR under executive order under Trump. But this is really good, especially with, other countries just beginning to, stack Satoshis right now. And this will only drive up global game theory where the governments are going to start ramping up the purchase of Bitcoin. Here's an interesting post in that the CEO of strategy is smash buying the common stock. What do you think happens next? So Feng Li, president and CEO of MSTR, he's been buying more and more MSTR stocks. This just shows the confidence of the leader who is really adding value to shareholders and to himself, showing how much belief he has in his own company, buying shares of MSTR. We know at one point, as Bitcoin price continues to go up, it'll bypass gold, gold at like $22 trillion, Bitcoin over $2 trillion. It's only a matter of time when Bitcoin will bypass gold. But what does that mean for, a public company like Strategy? Because Strategy has the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet, that just will then allow for MSTR to exponentially bypass all of the Mag 7 companies. In fact, they've already bypassed, major Mag 7 companies, and they're going to be right behind like Microsoft, Apple, you name it, and it's going to bypass gold at one point. Here's an interesting post in that, we had the strategy annual shareholder meeting, today, and also Federal Reserve interest rate decision is going to be happening, about 7 days from now. And we'll have the end of Q2, which is going to be like 18 days from now, and Strategy's Q2 earnings July 31st. So the fact that we have changed to the accounting rule with FASB, really pricing in Bitcoin at fair value, depending on how high the price of Bitcoin will be at the end of June, that'll all be factored in to really show the net revenue for Bitcoin price. And this is based on the total amount of Bitcoin strategy has. So what is the rate of change when it comes to the rate of growth of Bitcoin from like Q1 to Q2. Obviously, Q1 was like, Bitcoin around, much lower price. So all of that's going to be factored in. And this is really going to front run a lot of things in anticipation for big time price movement of strategy as well. With that, let's take a look at technical analysis of Bitcoin. So we're looking at Bitcoin on the hourly candle. So one of the key things is just recently with that news with Israel attacking Iran, we saw a pullback. Bitcoin now hovering at 103,794 at the time of this recording. But, as we scale out, just on the daily candle, good thing is, we're still hovering above that Ichimoku cloud. On the hourly, we're below it. But, this still is something to monitor. Let's say if Bitcoin continues to pull back where it gets in between the cloud and below that, that's where price can potentially drop down below that 100,000. We don't know what the future holds, but I do think that this may just be a short-term pullback with Bitcoin. I think there's a lot of people buying the dips, at 103,000. It's climbing up just recently. But key thing to monitor is to see, how long it stays below the Ichimoku cloud. But I do think that in the year 2025, there's so much market sentiment going on right now. Bitcoin is going to go anywhere from 150 to 250,000 towards the second half of 2025. With Bitcoin expected to reach all-time highs as we scale out towards end of year, what does this mean for strategy? Strategy ran up, in 2024, 800%. It ended the year 400%. In fact, it reached the all-time high of like 550. It's been pulling back for many months, consolidating in this bull flag. We see this bearish convergence. RSI began to go into the oversold territory. But since then, we've seen a climb up. And we're seeing, the price of MSTR breaking out of this bullish pennant flag. I do think that as we transition towards the second half of June, we're going to retest that 440. And then perhaps either in June, July, or even onward, we're going to retest that 550. I really do think that strategy has potential for a breakout. It's prime for, you can think of it as a primed, coiled, where it's just going to spring upward with the V shape. I'm thinking somewhere around that, on a moderate scale, $1,000 for MSTR by end of the year.
If it's ramping up in terms of its success, and let's say that that's exponential, because perhaps it might be, why won't Bitcoin just suck the investment capital out of everything? It is, and it will. Okay. That's why I'm here. Okay, so what's the consequences of that? Yeah, here's the big idea, right? Which is we're going through a digital transformation of the capital markets. The greatest digital transformation of this century is the transformation of capital. It's such a profound thing. It's at the bottom. What is capital worth? It's worth half of everything. Half of everything is capital. That is to say, any wealth, any money held as a long-term store of value. That's about $400 trillion right now. And so what Bitcoin is doing is converting fiat capital, analog capital, 20th century. Bitcoin is the one universally acknowledged commodity. If we let banks in the United States use Bitcoin and custody it and sell it and buy it and loan against it, if the United States government begins to hold it in a strategic reserve, the beneficiary will be America.
If you could talk to President Trump and say, here's the one thing I would tell you to do to ensure that America leads the way in the crypto space, what would you tell him?
I would say he's already done the first thing, which is highlight Bitcoin as a store of value, as digital gold, and put the United States support behind a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The second thing is to support the creation in law of a legitimate path for issuers in the United States to issue digital tokens, digital securities, and digital currency. Because if American companies can create those digital assets, we will become bankers to the world.
What does the future look like to you with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrency in general? Where do you see it 5, 10, or even 100 years from now?
I think big tech is going to embrace Bitcoin. They're going to let you hold your Bitcoin on your iPhone, on your Android phone. It will find its way into Microsoft software, Amazon software, Google, Apple software. I think that banks are going to embrace Bitcoin. So your bank's going to give you a loan against your Bitcoin. It'll buy Bitcoin for you. Insurance companies will start to support Bitcoin. I think families will increasingly begin to see it as their savings account. The yoga studio, the restaurant, the hotel chain, they'll be able to raise capital in order to improve their business and to innovate. And I think that sound money, that will spread through South America, Africa, Asia. It'll treasure China. So I think the future is American values, American technology, not just making America great, but also spreading economic prosperity to the entire world.
Well, Michael Saylor.
So there you heard it. I hope you enjoyed another episode here at All I See Is W. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your predictions are for strategy and Bitcoin. Put it down in the comments as well as where you're watching from. And if you're a Bitcoin bull as well as a MSTR bull, I would encourage you to hit the like, subscribing for more related content. Thanks, guys.